few months after my wife had experienced a miscarriage, we became pregnant again. And as you can imagine, after the tough time of losing a pregnancy, we were extremely excited, very pumped. I even like had my friend do some amazing paintings for our soon-to-be baby's room, and everything was going well. A few weeks later, actually at 20 weeks, when my wife was 20 weeks pregnant, we went to her 20-week checkup. It was a beautiful experience. We got to see, that amazing high definition sonogram where you see the baby moving around. She was absolutely perfect condition. We even saw her mouth moving. We asked like what was happening. The nurse told us that's actually her drinking and everything, and it was just such a cool experience to see that everything was going well. But all of a sudden, the nurse gets really, really quiet as she's looking at everything, and you can see the concern in her face. And we're asking, "Hey, what's going on?" And she just says, "Let me be right back. I'm gonna get the doctor. I'm gonna get the specialist to come in." And after a very, very long 15 minutes or so, the specialist comes in, and she looks concerned too. And she explains to us that they discovered that even though my wife was only 20 weeks, she was already starting to dilate significantly. Um, and that there just wasn't any hope in saving the pregnancy. And, you know, obviously that was very tough to hear. Um, and the most frustrating part is, and I don't know if it's because the times that we live in now or whatever it is, but she just tells us, like, trying to be upbeat about it, like, well, the good news is that you're both young, so what we're gonna do, or what we could do, is just terminate the pregnancy, and then you could try again. After we just witnessed our child drinking inside of her mother. And as you can imagine, our reaction, I guess, wasn't what she was expecting. And after, going back and forth, is that she finally, said that we could try something, and it was cervical cerclage, basically, where they sew they sewed my wife's cervix shut with hope of it, keeping our child inside of her. um and with very little hope and none at all, she's like, listen, if we go through this, she needs to reach at least 24 weeks in order for any hospital in Florida to even consider trying to save your baby if she happens to be born at that time. um we said okay, and about 12 hours later, my wife was already in surgery, having everything done. um and as you can imagine, after that, just the stress, like, she couldn't move around, she was afraid to get in bed, get out of bed. um not to get too graphic or anything, but she needed help because, like, when you have that type of surgery, you need to use like um suppositories and everything, and I would have to help her put those in and everything, and it was nerve-wracking to say the least, right? And at exactly 24 weeks, my wife starts to experience horrible pain, and we run to the hospital, and it turns out she was having contractions already. And after several hours in the hospital, doing testing and everything, they discovered that during her surgery, her amniotic sac, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, was actually punctured, slightly. And that had started to develop a horrible infection inside of her, to the point that within a few hours of them discovering that, it escalated really bad, um to where, again, not to sound too graphic or anything, to where the smell of the infection was like all over the room. You could, like, it was that bad, and the doctors finally said, listen, this baby has to come out now. um the baby's safer outside of her mom, way more safer than, like, she will be way more safer outside than she is on the inside. Once they told us that, the doctor came in, sat us down and explained to us, listen, if you go through with all this, just know that without us even knowing the condition of your daughter, um there's only a 32% chance of her surviving. And of course, I just looked at her and I'm just like, I just need one. I just need one. I have faith that this is gonna work out. Um, few, probably not even 2 hours after that, my wife gave birth to our absolutely beautiful child. Natural birth, believe it or not, because she was that low already. Due to how her body was technically trying to get the baby out. Um, she was 1.5 pounds, and 12 inches. And as soon as she was born, it's like all I could describe in the room, there was like this spiritual war going on. Because we just started praying and praying and praying, because as soon as she came out, obviously the doctors took over, and if you look at her report, you will see that it's like this thick. You would see that the first 11 minutes of her life were the doctors trying to bring her back to life and get her at least steady enough to where they could take her over to the NICU and continue to work on her. And during that whole time, it was me, my wife, and my sister and my mom were in there. And we were just praying out loud, declaring life over our child, declaring that, this, bringing God's presence into that room. And it worked. After those 11 minutes, they were able to bring her over really quick to my wife. She was like in a plastic bag in this like container thing, and then they rushed her off. And we had no clue what was happening. After that, like, the hospital has this thing where new mothers get to ring this bell and play music, and they had my wife do that, and it was like this really bittersweet feeling, because yes, we just had our baby, but we had no idea what was happening on the other floor. We had no idea she was still alive, to be honest. And that's where our very long journey began. We experienced things that no parent should actually go through, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you're probably currently experiencing the same thing, or you have, and it's traumatizing to live an experience with your baby in the NICU, especially if you're there for a long time. We lost count of how many times we actually lost her, and I'm not talking about just like a few minute Brady. I'm talking about doctors having to call code blue and everything, and her just literally turning purple, got a complete loss, and them having to bring her back so many times. We experienced brain bleeds. She had a PDA, which is like a little hole in the heart. Technical issues like an infiltrated IV in her leg, which she still has a huge scar from. That actually happened because they couldn't hear her crying. And it got so bad because they couldn't hear her crying because she was intubated. So that was very hard to deal with. She obviously, because she was intubated for so long, she developed a very difficult time trying to eat. She couldn't figure out how to drink milk or anything. So we actually had to have a G tube put on her in order to feed her correctly. And after 136 days, we were finally able to take our baby home.
Now the moments come for me to stand. Oh, there in glory with my heart in hand. Oh, I always dreamed that someday I could be here. I'm here now. I'm here now. I will rise up. I will not fall. I will stand up. never giving up faith. I will go all the way. This will be the day. This will be the day.
So why Nicopreneur? So long before even becoming a dad or even thinking of becoming a parent, I actually became an entrepreneur. I got very, very into the world of, online marketing and everything. And if you're in the world of online marketing, there's a chance you probably recognize me or the background. If you happen to be like in the ClickFunnels world, you probably see me there speaking as well. And because of that, I was actually able to be at the hospital with my baby during those 136 days, every day, practically all day, right? And to be honest, I truly feel that a part in her surviving, literally, and being able to come home was the fact that that her parents were always there, because there were many, many, many times where you could tell that the doctors and the nurses were borderline about to give up on her. It was that serious. And a lot of babies don't make it home, unfortunately. It's especially when you're born that early, like since the beginning, since the doctor saying that we should have terminated the pregnancy, like the odds were against her. And obviously through the grace of God, of course, but also I really feel us being there put some pressure on her, because when they were losing her, every time they would look back and we were there quietly begging for them to not give up. um and I owe it to that a lot. I was able to work as long as I had a Wi-Fi and everything. I was able to work from the hospital and always be there. Even after she came home, it's like her having a G tube and everything. Obviously, we weren't going to trust anyone with her. Like, we needed to do that, and we were able to do it from home. Um, and while obviously I was extremely grateful for being able to be there all the time, there was also a sense of guilt, because when you're there for 136 days, you see a lot of parents come and go, right, with their babies, and there was always a common stress. And I would overhear parents talking, and it was always about, for one, the baby came way sooner than they thought, so they weren't ready for it. So a lot of mothers were struggling between, like, hey, should I take my maternity leave now or just continue going to work and do it once I'm able to bring them home, or vice versa. Once my baby does come home, they have special needs. Who am I going to trust with them? I can't trust anyone. They started debating in between what made more financial sense: going to work and finding a babysitter, or the babysitter or daycare costs more than what they made at work. And it was this unfortunate and unnecessary stress on top of the horrible stress they were going through, the trauma they were going through of being in the hospital, that to me it was unfair. And I was witnessing this, and while being grateful I didn't have to experience it, there was this sense of responsibility that fell over me. And that's when I created this brand. um I couldn't help anyone right there and then, but I made it my mission to be able to create something that could show new parents, especially parents that are going through, their baby being at the NICU, or just any parent in general with a child with special needs, that just cannot trust anyone else with them, that there's another way. Like, they don't you being at home doesn't necessarily mean you have to be broke. And that's where I created this brand, and since then I've been on a mission of trying to perfect this in a way to where I could teach parents tips and tricks to show them that they could turn any idea into an income stream, into a business, if you want to call it a business. And I use that business word kind of, slightly, because just I think there's like a recent hype with people that they kind of throw that term business around, and now everyone's a business owner, and it kind of ruins it. So I like to say, listen, you could turn any idea into a stream of income for your home, so where you can quit your job if you want, and while at the same time develop a skill that you could find a whole different type of job that you couldn't even imagine, yourself actually doing. We send out hashtag Nicopreneur t-shirts to the parents so they could wear it with pride, so they could be a Nicopreneur as well. Nicopreneur.com was basically created just to show parents that there's another way, right? Even long after you're out of the hospital and you're just living life with your family, it's like you don't need to always be stressed out about a job. You're able to work from home or from anywhere in the world, really, that you have internet access. Even if after developing a certain skill, you can find a whole different new type of job that allows you to actually travel the world. As long as you have Wi-Fi, you could do it. And as I just mentioned before, the internet world has kind of messed it up for a lot of people, because if you have an online business, if it's not producing the type of income where you're flying on private jets to private islands, it's not working. That's a ton of crap. You like right now, like if it happens all the time, like I was actually raised in Puerto Rico, my wife's family is still over there as well, and there's many times where she's like, oh my god, such and such artist is playing in Puerto Rico, I would love to go, it's this Sunday. And I'm like, okay. And then she goes and checks, and there's some really cool Airbnbs on the water, so we can make it like a long weekend type of thing, or just stay there the whole week. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I found this really cheap flight. You see, it doesn't have to be like this luxurious flight in a private jet. It's like a Frontier and Spirit type of cheap deals, like $130 for all three of us to go. And you know, we have the ability to, say, okay, let's just do it. So when you want to leave, can we leave tomorrow or the next day? Sure. Like it's never about let me go check with my boss, or I don't have vacation time or anything like that. It's just having the freedom, and yes, enough funds to do something like that, but able to just go and enjoy your family. um I've lost count of how many airplanes our daughter has been on since she was born, but it's been a ton of them. um She's already used to it, which is it's kind of funny, because she just turned 4 a few weeks ago as I'm recording this, and we were able to take her out to go see Chef Mickey and all those cool things, all the chefs at Chef Mickey and everything. And life has just been amazing with her. We are so blessed to have her as our daughter. We always think back to like the first doctor that suggested us terminating the pregnancy as the first option. And although it never crossed our mind, it was an immediate no off the bat. But we think about, like, what if we did think about it? What if we had moved forward with doing that? And it's like, now we look at her and we see how amazing she is, how perfect she is, how intelligent she is. It's terrifying, just the thought. It is my mission to make sure I continue to do well in life, because I feel like I'm just put in this place to pave the road for her, because I know she has a purpose. I know she has a purpose. I'm going to see her on stage speaking and changing lives, because there was a mission against her to not allow her to come into this world, and she did. And I have an amazing amount of faith that she's going to go and make huge changes. um and yeah, I could spend here talking all day about her. um it's been amazing, and we absolutely love her. And that's it. I just wanted to make this video to kind of explain where Nicopreneur.com came from. Just as soon as I made the YouTube channel, a ton of people were asking me, people that actually knew me, that I'm surprised they didn't know about it. There's like, hey, I noticed that Nicopreneur hashtag, what does that mean exactly? And I'm like, really, you don't know? So that's why I wanted to make this video. Hope it was helpful in any way. If you're a parent experiencing the NICU life, the preemie baby life, hang in there, hang in there. It's the toughest time. People that haven't gone through it won't understand. Be patient with them, be loving of them. um it's just one of those things. It's like kind of like when you first become a parent in general, and you start looking back at what your parents told you you were never going to understand until you have a baby, and now you realize how true that is. Experiencing life in the NICU is a whole different world, especially if it's a traumatic experience, and life after the NICU is very hard. um and for those, if you're watching this and perhaps your baby didn't make it out, um I pray for you every day, and I sincerely mean that. It's it can be easy. Um, it was a very real fear for me and my wife to having to potentially experience that. Um, so just know that you're loved, and God loves you, Jesus loves you, and we genuinely we really really pray for you all the time, and I hope you find peace and purpose in your life. Take care.